Ferdinand Porsche, legendary founder of the company, produced one of the world's first hybrid electric vehicles in 1899. Yeah, didn't see that one coming, did you, Elon Musk? Anywho, in the early days of the 20th century, 1893 if we're being all historically accurate, 18-year-old Ferdinand Porsche started working for Vienna-based coach builder Lonner Work. Within just 2 years of starting work, Porsche had designed one of the world's first hybrid vehicles as a result of having experimented with electricity in his parents' house, initially on their lighting. The first vehicles he designed there were with electric powertrains. Our Ferdinand was clearly the OG trendsetter for cars going green over 120 years later. Check that out. The Porsche 911 is actually one of the world's longest running sports cars. The 911 is the iconic sports car that defines the company and shapes it into what it is today. Designed and built in 1963, the Porsche 911 has a frankly nuts and slightly implausible history that extends further back than almost any other sports car. The 911 is one of the few vehicles to have been continually produced since the 1960s, having been updated and modified throughout its lifetime, but it still preserves much of its original design today. The famous Porsche crest that we all know and love was designed on the back of a bloody napkin of all places. So I guess that's where the saying comes from. One of Porsche's most famous and iconic features is of course its crest, featured on the front of all vehicles. The crest is based on the coats of arms of Stuttgart, the capital of Baden-Württemberg, and where Porsche has been based for decades. Chief designer Ferry Porsche, Porsche Jr., Mini Porsche, whatever you want to call him, outlined the crest on the back of a napkin at a restaurant whilst brainstorming logo ideas. Porsche used to make tractors. Yeah, you did hear me right. Lamborghini is notorious for making farming machinery, but Porsche manufactured more than 125,000 tractors in the 50s and 60s, and even dabbled in designing forklift trucks and aeroplane cockpits. It would seem then that Porsche loved to dabble in whatever takes their fancy, but that's hardly news, is it? It's honestly pretty hard to tell, historically speaking, if Ferdinand Porsche was a Nazi of conviction or if he was just the mad scientist of his nickname and just wanted to build cars. It appears more likely the latter, which is honestly what I'd like to believe, but he was still a key figure in creating technology for the war. Based on Hitler's recommendation or directive, the German Labour Front commissioned Porsche to design a small and universal people's tractor, which, by the way, is quite possibly the most communist, fascist idea I've ever heard. What you up to, Germany? Anyway, moving on. The whole point of the People's Tractor was to modernise Germany's agricultural industry. And after the war, Porsche just kept developing them. They made some more tractors. Porsche tractors for everyone. All diesel models were air-cooled designs, and the tractors featured Porsche badges, which really makes me want one now. Alright, moving on. This is possibly the most ambitious crossover since the Avengers, but realistically within Porsche's wacky realm of possibilities. Believe it or not, they actually designed an engine for Harley-Davidson. It sounds like one of the strangest collaborations of the century, but Porsche and Harley-Davidson have worked together as far back as the 70s. In 2002, Porsche designed a V2 engine based on the Harley's VR1000 race unit for the iconic American brand's new model, the V-Rod Cruiser and muscle bike. Harley was and still is looking to attract new and younger riders and needed a new, affordable and reliable bike. So, look no further than Porsche to meet these criteria. The V2 engine is water-cooled, a first for Harley, and revs out to 9,000 RPM. It became Harley's best-selling bike in other countries and stayed in production until 2017, with various models under the name. Mental. Porsche has well over 30,000 race victories under their belt. I mean, that is insane. To put that in perspective for you, if you raced one race every single day and you won every single race that you raced every single day, you would have to race for 82 years to get to 30,000 victories. Like, just put that in perspective, guys. That's ridiculous. So, how did this all begin? Well, Porsche started off by building engines for small race teams in the 50s. But the 1969 Porsche 917 started a legend by winning the 24 Hours at Le Mans. Porsche now is currently the world's largest race car manufacturer and builds an insane amount of cars for various events. Its Le Mans and road racing history is well documented, but Porsche has appeared in just about every form of motorsport, including rally, IndyCar, Formula One, and even kicked off the IROC racing series. It has also created its own race series to promote amateur racing across the world, most famously the Carrera Cup in several countries. The Porsche 911 was almost the Porsche 901. Ferdinand originally wanted to call the 911 the 901, but Peugeot halted them as the traditional Peugeot classification is formatted number 0 number. Peugeot claimed the trademark on 3-digit numbers with a 0 in the middle, totally freaking out mathematicians all around the globe, so Porsche simply just changed the 901 to 911 before its release. And that is a well-documented fact. What is lacking in the documented departments is why it was the 901, or what other models were changed. The why was because the 900 series mirrored the Volkswagen part number convention at the time, and since Peugeot wasn't using its 3-digit with a 0 model for racing or competing with Porsche, the company used 907, 908, and 909 for their racing lineup. The 901 number became shorthand among enthusiasts for the early 911's aluminium 5-speed transmission, as its 11-digit code began with 901. You know what? All these numbers are proving a little bit taxing on the old brain. Let's just switch into an easy quickfire round. Alright, here we go. In 1972, Porsche developed the world's first black chronograph watch. Yep, back then it was all about functionality, so it copied the gauges in a car. Many of the Porsche watches today can be seen to follow the original design, with even now many other brands copying Porsche's timeless, pardon the pun, designs. Black, white and red are the most popular colours for Porsche cars. Even though the company will custom paint a car in any colour for a fee, black, white and red were always and still are the most popular colour choices for the cars today. Okay, last one, I promise. The very first VW Beetle was built in Ferdinand's private villa. How cool is that? It just keeps on getting more crazy, doesn't it? Being a designer who fully immersed himself in his work, it isn't surprising that Ferdinand used his own home to make one of the world's most iconic cars, yet most miserable cars. It may be rank, but iconic and utilitarian nonetheless. So hats off to Ferdinand, a true genius and a potential time traveler in light of his electric vehicle shenanigans in the 1800s. Still can't get over that one, that's just mad. Alright guys, that is everything we've got for you today. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all of that good stuff that you hear so many times, and last but not least, have a good one.